Well, hello. I am here with a lovely couple and women I've got to know and enjoy so much who took the Become Passion program, gosh, 1 year ago, right? This is Lisa and Cam, and they very gracefully and pretty cheerfully volunteered to share some of their journey for a couple of reasons. Because I think for most of us that are in longer term relationships, and by that I mean maybe just more than a couple of years, we do end up lacking some of what we thought we used to have or we would find. We can often be in what I call relationship or marriage incorporated, where we're kind of trundling along with the dogs and the mortgages and the health issues and the career, and we lose each other. And I think it's so helpful for my audience to hear what drew you to the Become Passion program, what was happening before, and what's happening now. So let's go back about a year ago, maybe a little bit further back than that. Where were you at in terms of your marriage? How were you feeling? And what, if anything, led you to however your first contact with me was? So basically, how were you doing? The good, the bad, and the ugly.
We were meh, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
we were going through the motions, but I kept saying to Cam that I felt like we were roommates and not partners, not lovers, not married, just roommates, just kind of going through the motions,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah, I felt a little bit differently than that. I felt we were in a good place. We have a good life. We have a brand new house, beautiful dogs,
Mm-hmm.
health, not so great. But we were definitely missing a connection between us, a more intimate, I will describe as a true emotional connection between us.
Right.
And we were definitely missing like sensuality and a sexual relationship between
Mm-hmm.
us.
Yeah.
When it was at its worst, we've all got our worst days, my husband and I as well. Like, what did that look like? What were kind of your, was it silent treatment, not talking for a couple days? Is it more ugly arguments? Is it, what were the biggest pains, I guess, the biggest stressors for you? And that may be a slightly or quite a bit different answer for each of you. You're two different people.
I would say we didn't hit like a bottom per se to look at trying to find some help for ourselves. It had been a cumulative type situation where we'd have some big, nasty arguments, ugly arguments, and we would, for the most part, resolve them or do the silent thing, go to bed, let's talk about it the next day. Some things didn't get resolved, and I think a lot of things just kept kind of getting pushed under the rug.
Mm-hmm.
And but it never. We weren't in a nasty area. It was more of a, we need to start paying attention to the marriage and not marriage inc and marriage and all the other things that had gotten in the way.
Yeah, I would say
Mm-hmm.
it was like a really slow decline of just, never getting any better, just getting, like mediocre and then like we're not, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, we weren't actually getting any, there weren't any perks, there weren't any good highs. It was just kind of slowly declining, is what I kind of felt.
Yeah, and I think this is so familiar to a lot of people listening, where sometimes it's phrased, maybe not for the two of you, but I love them, but I don't feel like I'm in love with them anymore. And one of the main causes or things that people report as the reasons they say they got divorced was, we just really grew apart. It's not always a big, hostile, abusive conversation style. It's not always an affair. It's not always someone goes through a major self evaluation and wants a very different life than they thought they wanted. It's often that slow, as one of my patients said years ago in this very room, he said it's the death by a thousand cuts, right? So, yeah. And I think that's really important that we can be okay ish and still very unhappy, right?
Yeah.
And in a way that can be, I'm going to say that can be even a little more dangerous than being super unhappy, because we can tolerate kind of unhappy a long, long time. Pain is a great motivator when it's really ugly or we're really lonely or we really feel, like we're living with someone who doesn't seem to have any interest in us, that pain can sometimes motivate us. But so back to the two of you. I don't remember how we first came into contact with each other, but probably 1 year ago, you attended the Passion Masterclass.
Yes, that's correct.
And so I don't know how you came to that, or if you were following me for a while, or if I was brand new to you.
You were brand new to us. I read an article from the Gottman Institute that
Mm,
you had posted on night, and it really resonated. And so then we did a little bit more research and saw that you had this masterclass coming up. So
mhm.
we participated in it, and at the end of it, Cam and I were both kind of like, I feel like she really gets us. Like it just,
Mm.
we felt an immediate connection with you and went, okay, let's take this one step further and let's join this course and see how that goes.
Well, that of course means the world to me. And I want to let people know that the Passion Masterclass here in 2023, I'm going to kick it off on Tuesday, the 24th of October this year. And I teach 4 or 5 of these classes. They're all live. They're all fresh. Each one's unique, similar content, but it's a new group each time. And so you can pick a time that works for you. And what it is a free, fairly intensive workshop where I go over the model, the 3 key things couples need to work on and develop and improve and then maintain or keep nurturing to be happier, more connected, et cetera, et cetera. I talk about the model a fair bit on the podcast, so we won't dwell on it so much now. So you saw the masterclass, you read an article. I used to write most of the sexuality articles on the Gottman blog back in the day. I write for a number of places. What a beautiful platform that also is. And you went to this online masterclass, again, coming up for folks, and you said, let's do this. So then let's move into this kind of, at that point, I think, maybe not for the two of you, kind of a vulnerable, interesting first week or two where you're learning, like, what is this course? What are we doing? How do we do it? So tell me, and more importantly, the couples listening that might be considering whether it's a match for them this year or not. What was your experience of the program itself? It's kind of a big question, but you can riff on it any direction it takes you.
Um, well, what piqued my interest is the slow start of like almost starting from the beginning, back to basics, where you you're down at the ground and you're starting to build up, and we needed to do that for our communication was
Mm-hmm.
not
Oh,
the
yeah.
best at times, and getting that structure um, more solid. That was
Mm-hmm.
what I really needed before I could take any other steps. And I needed that to make us better.
Yeah, like working on our communication was key, right? Cam's
Mm-hmm.
always said that that was one of the biggest things lacking in our marriage. So this gave us focus. This said, okay, this is how you're going to work on it. These are some exercises to help you along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Practice doing this. And it was really great because it was here's your week homework. Here's the things that you're going to focus on. And it gave you specific focus and things to, really apply and work on. Instead of just being very open, okay, you're going to work on communication now and not know
Yeah.
what that looks like. Right. So
Yeah.
this was really good.
Yeah, and I also found that it gave us I may have said that a bit earlier, this focus to with the lessons and the whatever, it made us aware of our how we were behaving, and
Right.
gave us
Right.
that opportunity to go, wait a minute, okay, no, not cool, or it just made us so aware of each other and ourselves. More importantly, I felt that I was like, okay, I need to either cut that out or work on this, and it was very, very structured. And I'm not gonna, we were pretty good students, as in we were pretty diligent about following every week. We always watched the lessons and did our homework until, well, maybe 6, 7, and 8. But anyways, or no, 7 and 8, 6, 7, and 8. Anyway, and I'll talk about that later. But yeah, so we really were inspired, and we really, all the live talks that we were able to attend and whatnot, they just really, really helped
Yeah.
to give us that starting point.
It's so important. I'm not aware of another program in this field that where the expert teaches live. So that the curriculum is there, because I don't need to teach the techniques live. It's much more effective to have them pre-recorded with what I call the home place sheets, the slides you can download and do that work. But then in the live, we can take a deeper dive into the unique questions of each group. I've taught 6 groups now in the last 3.5 years, almost 500 couples, and each group's a little bit different. So for listeners who don't know, what I do is every week I teach a live online class, and it's not on Zoom, it's not on camera, because these are people who aren't at the point where they're interested in sharing their stories with the group. They want to share their story with me and get my advice, or have me direct them to a lesson, or add an extra lesson or an extra piece for them and the audience. So I'm the only one on camera for people that are concerned, rightfully so, about confidentiality. They might be thinking, oh my goodness, Cam and Lisa are amazing, but I don't want to be on camera talking about your relationship. It's not at all part of the Become Passion program. You do the work with your partner in the privacy of your house or wherever when you want to do it. But the live calls give you access to me. And if you can't attend the live calls, which is an excellent question people have, they're like, oh, I'm a first responder, I work shifts, I'm not going to probably be able to make a bunch of the live calls. They're recorded, and you, as you two know, but I'll let the audience know, you can send me your questions ahead of time. Say, hey, we won't be on the call, but we're really struggling with some nasty, pretty verbally abusive arguing, and we need you to take a deeper dive into that for us. Here's some history. And then I can answer the question on the call. You, of course, can watch it a few days later or whenever at your convenience. So I want to go back, though, to I really appreciate, and thank you for saying it. It's great for me to hear that it started out so fundamentally. And that doesn't mean too simple or simplistic, but fundamentally with things like, are you being kind to your friend? That's a phrase that you may recall that I use. And I think it takes us up pretty short. Are you speaking to your sweetheart the way you would speak to a friend? And of course, I do that mimicking thing where, let's say, Lisa and I are partners, and I'm, getting into a grumpy with her. I'm like, well, you did this and you never do it. And you said you'd make dinner and I do it all the time. And for God's sake, it's like I'm the king of the world around here and I got to do everything. The phone rings. I'm like, hello. Oh, hi, Cam. How you doing? Like in a split second, I start being kind, at least faking it, and using a kinder, more open tone of voice to my friend Cam instead of my partner, Lisa, and things like that. So often I get the feedback that is so obvious, but we aren't doing it very well, right? And there's other things in the program that are very, very complex and multi-layered and complicated, but we build up to those. So during the program, what were any surprises that came up, either positive or negative? Did you run into something you thought you were pretty good at and it turned out ouch, or anything like that? Takeaways, aha moments, things you particularly liked, found helpful?
The clock.
Yeah, the 15:15, the other side of the clock.
The other side of the clock really gave us a chance to realize that we're talking about the same thing, but we're seeing it from 2 different views or opinions, and none of them are wrong and none of them are right. It's just 2 different people seeing something just differently, and there's nothing wrong with that. And that was really huge, because we tend to, when we're in our spiral of about to potentially not blow up, but things get
Ugly.
Yeah, sure.
Heated, flooded.
It just keeps going, and each of us are trying to prove our point or our opinion.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait a minute, just listen to it and kind of take a moment and go, okay, hang on a second. I don't need to sell my opinion. I don't need to be right. There's no right and wrong. We need to get over that and not have that feeling of somebody has to be right or wrong and somebody needs to apologize. We need to both be in it and just listen to one another and maybe kind of try and put ourselves in their shoes. And
yes. It is so it's so difficult. We're not trained. Wouldn't it be great if we all learned this and rehearsed this in like the 9th and 10th and 11th grade? But one of the ways I put it in there is I say, what is the purpose of communication? And we don't really think about that, but it's more, well, I want to help them understand or make them understand me. I said, actually, the way I want to teach it is the purpose of communication is to become closer and to learn. So to become closer and to learn. And the hardest challenge with my sweetheart as well is when he's saying something I don't agree with. It may be threatening to me, like I don't mean physically, but maybe he's saying, I'd like to move. I don't want to live in British Columbia anymore. If he brought that up, I'd feel pretty flooded and like, no, I have to convince him why that's a terrible idea. But when I can switch to what's going on for you, how do you feel about it? Why does this feel important to you? Can you help me understand? Then we move out of that general way we communicate when we disagree, which is really pound it home and try to make the person see our side until they finally give up. If we're more relentless than them and they go, sure, whatever, Cheryl. Yeah, we'll do it your way. So when Cam and Lisa talk about the other side of the clock, I've done a podcast on that. We'll link to it below here. Is one of the most simple but beautiful concepts that can really make a huge difference in understanding each other. So moving forward, what was your experience of working with me in the program? We've talked a little bit about the live classes, so you felt there was access to me that was helpful.
We felt an immediate connection to you like felt like you cared. Like we could hear when you're talking, even if it wasn't one of our questions on the live calls, we could hear the amount of love that you have for this job that you have, and that it's not just a job. Like you really want to help people. Like I could feel it. And that was one of the things that, we just said, this is right. This feels good.
The sincerity of it, and it honestly started from the master class. Like we were both like, okay, like we could listen to you. Your voice is very calming, opening, it's inviting, and we feel like the trust. And for Lisa and I, we both have sort of trust issues in wanting to, pardon me, talk to somebody. And we just felt like, it was just like a connection, and we just wanted to keep going. And we also, I'm not going to lie, I did some research because I'm like, okay, we're doing something online. Is this like a for real thing?
Yeah.
You read about all these, scams and such. And so I looked you up and I read a whole bunch of stuff about you. And I'm like, no, she's for real.
Yeah.
She's for real. So,
and I'm glad you did that, because it's always this surprising gift when someone sees me teach for an hour and a half and then says, I'm going to invest my heart, my time, my trust, and some of my finances in my relationship based on, I think I trust and like this person. Holy smokes, is that beautiful? But also use your discriminative awareness. Also, for people listening, I don't know how well I would jump in. I tend to more sit back, wait till it comes around another time. I definitely do all the research like Ms. Cam here. But one thing I do to take that fear away from people, as you may or may not recall from a year ago, is there's a money back guarantee after the first 3 weeks, so that people feel that safety, that if they get in and the program itself is lame or not helpful, or I'm not very skilled after all, and I just made a really good masterclass, there's that safety that then I will choose to leave. And I'm very proud to say of 495 people, I think 4 people have ever asked for a refund. 3 of them, because between signing up and the first week or two, they decided to end their relationship forever. And they very graciously said, we know that doesn't really meet the criteria of the program doesn't work. I said, well, yeah, but that's fine. And one person who just didn't really work for them, but that's out of 500. And I share that with people to reassure them that, yes, of course, if it's not right for you, you get in, and it's really not right for you, then we bless and release. So, all right. So now let's fast forward. What are some of the things that you would say, and of course, not across the board, and of course, not every day, but some of the things you would say that have improved or changed that you're happier about? And you can talk about your behavior. You can also talk about your partner's behavior. You're allowed.
Our communication skills have definitely improved. Our fights are not as frequent or as ugly. I catch myself. I'm the one that has the terrible talking habits, and I use terrible language, and I just get flooded a lot quicker, but I'm recognizing it a lot faster, and I catch myself and I go, whoa, sorry, I didn't mean it like that. Or, whoa, sorry, just caught me at a bad moment, and we're able to step out of that really quickly. Whereas, a year ago that wouldn't have happened, and I would have said something wrong, and I wouldn't have recognized it was wrong, and then it turns into a stupid argument. So that's definitely changed for sure. I mean, we're not perfect. We still argue, and I still say stupid things, but it's less frequent, and it's doesn't last as long.
Yeah. And I'll just add to that, because I say this so often in the program, but for the listeners that might not have heard it, although I say it in the podcast too, I'm guilty too. In my dynamic, I'm the Lisa and my partner's more the Cam, more maybe level headed, less reactive, a little more calm, has both positives and negatives to that style as well. But if someone's going to lose their biscuit and be verbally unkind, maybe even verbally abusive, say really mean, crappy things, I know, shocking, right? The expert is a human being. I think it's so important for me to be transparent appropriately and vulnerable appropriately, to say, this is a lifelong gig. I know a little bit about your childhood upbringing, Lisa, and patterning in our families. I certainly know in mine. We don't change this in 3 months. We don't even change it in 3 years, but we start changing it. And as you so wisely said, we start catching it, and we can apologize, step away, calm down, try again, which is liberating, right? It empowers us to have some control over our destructive patterns. And if they've been rehearsed for 20 years, sometimes 40 years, or 1 decade, we can't expect them to just disappear, which is why, as you know, the program's about 3 months long, but then people have lifetime access to all the material. They can go back and watch any of the lessons. They start to have a sexuality issue, maybe for the first time. Maybe their sex life was fairly good. Now they hit aging or childbirth, or there's some sort of betrayal, or any number of reasons where their sexuality becomes more challenging or difficult, or they're not making love. They can go back and watch those sections. They can go back and watch the live calls, because I itemize what sorts of questions I asked, right? Chances are, if you have a question about when I try to bring up a topic with my partner, no matter how careful and thoughtfully I bring it up, they immediately think they're in trouble and close down. What can we do? There's probably a question similar to that somewhere in one of the library that you keep going back to. So, Cam, what's better? What do you appreciate? What's going better for the two of you, since what you've learned, and so really practice pretty hard? I know you're not perfect. I'm not either, but you're doing the work.
Yeah, no, for sure. There's a lot of things that are better. One
Yay.
is slowly starting to become more physical and not quite sensual, but we're being a little more touchy. Our 3 breath hugs every day, twice a day, are really important to us, except for when I was sick last week. We were trying to avoid that. But we're making time for each other, and we're planning things, and we're doing more things together than just living the life, getting home, having dinner. She's tutoring. I'll watch a show. She'll be marking. I'll be doing, you know what I mean? Like, we're doing more together and planning more together, and actually spending more time together. Doing the program was huge, because for years we always set aside, well, not years, 3-4 years, we set aside a night for, we called it date night, where don't call me, I'm not answering the phone.
Yep.
We're just doing something for each other, where we're eating together, we're not watching TV because normally we do, I'm not gonna lie. And we're having just time for her and I, doing something that whatever we want to do together. No homework, no anything. And this reinforced that, and then made it kind of like it upped it. We upped it a bit,
Right.
so that it wasn't just
A different TV show, or something.
or we're going to watch a movie instead of a. So we definitely, I would say, that got more interesting. Planning trips, just that really increased, and I think ultimately the communication has definitely gotten better. We use the Talk 15 quite often now. I wish back in the day we knew the timeout.
Right.
But we haven't needed to use it, actually, since we learned it, because we never let it get to that point.
That's a pretty powerful thing to say, is
Yeah.
that your less wholesome, more unpleasant or nasty arguments, you still have other ways to step away. Fantastic. And just back to the date night. For people listening, one of the, it's kind of tongue in cheek, it's quite playful, but as part of the whole program, every week I give a Friday night date night. Doesn't have to be on Friday night, but that's when me and my sweetie do it. And I give sometimes an exercise, like ask interesting questions. Here's 20 interesting questions. Take them out to the bar or to dinner or for a walk or a park bench and ask your partner a few of these questions. Learn something new. Sometimes it's a specific thing from that week, like the thrill week. How can you do something out of the box, as you just so beautifully said? Not just we like going to restaurants, so we went to a restaurant. That's fantastic. But maybe you find a different restaurant with a tasting menu or a theme, or you drive to a different part of the city or your area to do something different. Novelty, when we go do something new with our partner, there's scientifically shown it makes our partner more attractive to us. We're more interested in them when we take ourselves out of our typical environment, our typical routine, and you go do something, you go bowling. I've gone bowling, I think, twice in the last decade or 15 years, and both times it was a blast. I'm like, said to Richard actually last week, we should go bowling again. He's like, sure. So making that a priority, and is funny because I'm certainly not the only person in the couples and sexuality and romance fields that says go on date nights, and everybody rolls their eyes like, I know we're supposed to go on date nights. I'm like, but are you? well, not really. Well, are you like plan like take alternate? This week I'll plan something, this week you'll plan something. So we really get into that in the program, and I think in a playful way, and in the chat box, because of course you're anonymous on the calls in Become Passion in the program. It's not on Zoom, it's not on camera. People want to do their own work with their partner, but in the chat box people give date ideas, right? Oh, we did this really cool thing. We went to the zoo and they were having like a raise money for animal welfare thing, and it was amazing, and people are like, that sounds great. Let's look for an interesting thing for charity where we're contributing but we're out. Maybe it's a dinner. So thanks for bringing that up, and owning that, like so many of us, we can get lazy. And I'm also going to keep it real. And we can also we're tired. We are tired. Lisa has a very intense job. She tutors at the end of it. You've got some health challenges that can really wear your energy and body down, Cam. These are real, and we can't just dismiss them and pretend we're, 19-year-olds with boundless energy who could go drinking all night. Fictional story. I'm sure it wasn't me, and feel fine the next day and like kick ass. It's like there are tired bodies, there are stressed minds, but you can always go for a little walk in your back 40 with your dogs for 15 minutes and stop. And like tonight, if it's not cloudy there, look at the full moon. That counts too. Can you think of one or two dates you went on, or little trips you went on during the last year or during the course of the program? I seem to remember getting a fabulous picture during the program when we were running Become Program last fall about some special tattoos, and you were in Mexico or somewhere. Am I remembering that right?
Yeah, no,
Do tell.
we went to Mexico. We have friends of ours that have retired and now live in Mexico, so they invited us to come and spend the week after Christmas with them. So we went down, and she had made appointments for us to get tattoos because they are significantly less expensive in Mexico than they are in Canada. So we were getting tattoos, and the tattoo that we got was an infinity symbol, because when Cam and I got married, we used the infinity symbol a lot in our wedding invitations, on our cake topper and stuff. So we have an infinity symbol with a heart and two dog paws, because
There it is.
we have puppies. Yeah. And
So it's
We're on the wrong side.
yeah. So when we hold hands, when we hold hands, when we're sitting the right way, we link.
I remember that one so well because it was we were talking about thrill, we were talking about planning dates, doing something different, and you so kindly sent a picture of that, and I was able to download it and then show it to the group, and they were like inspired, like what a romantic, interesting, sweet thing to do, and with it relating to your marriage vows, etc. So it's just an example of what I call making love intentional. Right? Instead of waiting around for love to take care of itself, which, by the way, people listening, is why the program's called Become Passion. It's not about, oh, I'm going to whine and complain and feel sorry for myself until my partner gets their shit together and we're happy. That's not becoming anything. And of course, both people have to make some effort. It's a mutual journey. It might be 90% me, 10% you at different times. But the idea is, can we become the relationship we want? I sometimes challenge people and I say, would you date you the way you're acting in your relationship? Do you think you're a catch the way you're acting with your long-term partner? And people often get a little quiet at that point and say, I used to be a catch. I was super a catch when I was catching them. I think overall I'm a catch as a human. Am I acting in my relationship with the kind of qualities that would make me a catch? Maybe we need to do some cleaning up, which is what we all do together in the program. And as you know, my sweetheart and I do the work all the time. We'll keep doing it till our last breath, because unless we get fully enlightened and become perfect, but I'm not hanging out for that because I'm a realist and a scientist and I don't expect that to happen. All right. What were, after our 12 weeks together, when the program formally comes to an end, usually mid-January, late January, I like to kick people off in the new year with these new skills. Did you find you felt empowered enough that you could keep using the material or keep going? Like there was enough there that it wasn't just, that was amazing, we made some changes and now we're going to slide back to our old patterns?
No, I think we were good.
Yeah.
The very last week of the program, you build your own passion triangle, right? So, and Cam and I did that, and we posted it up. We tried to really focus on it.
Lisa made a checklist,
Yeah.
so that we had a daily, our goals, and then we had a weekly and a monthly, and she would do it, week starting, was it Monday to Sunday or Saturday
Yeah, I
to
can't
Sunday?
remember.
Anyway, and we'd have to do check marks to, and our goal was always to do at least 2 or 3 of them per week, maybe a little bit more per month.
Yeah.
And that was going great, probably for about 4 months. And then we started to slide a bit in
Right.
getting to check things off. Things just got busy with Lisa in school,
Right.
and we were still doing our 3 breath hugs, and if we needed to do a talk 15, we would, but we weren't, like you said, making
Making love intentional, making
Exactly.
that effort. Yeah.
We needed to, so we would get your what are they called,
The love bites. Yeah.
and it would definitely kind of, Lisa, well, I think we both get them now. You were only at first, and we would have to talk to each other and say, no, we got to go back and
Right.
start continuing to do it. Maybe we need to watch a lesson or two, and
Let's
refocus.
revisit this. Let's go
Yeah.
back to this and stuff.
But
And this is human nature. And I'm a pretty good educator and I know human nature. I'm a human with a nature. And I know whatever it is, maybe we do a 3-month quilting program, a 3-month fitness program, a 3 months learn how to cook unbelievable homemade Thai food program. If we don't revisit, if we don't use it, if we don't once a week make Thai food, it slides away. And it's one of the most frustrating things about being human, I think, is when we let ourselves down around things that do matter to us. And then we say, damn it, that matters to us. But what I also love is you can always begin again, as I say, in this breath, in this moment, which is true of everything in our life. And so I build in the fact that people can go back to the program, et cetera, and access me in other ways on an ongoing way if they want to, because I want success. I don't want people to have a great experience for 3 months and then 2 years later say, yeah, we were doing really well 2 years ago, but we've let it all go by the wayside. So thinking back, was there anything when you, made the plunge to join the program and be part of it last October, that held you back, or you were, reluctant about? Some people are like, nope, it fit, we were in. Others are like, I was a bit concerned about X or Y.
the only thing that held us back was finances, because I'm at home on disability, and
Right.
we just built a house 2 years ago, so we're a little mortgage broke, house broke.
For sure.
So that was the only
Yeah, it was the only thing that made us
factor
pause.
Yeah.
that was like, okay, can we do this? Can we, it was just affordability, because we really
Absolutely.
we were both really into it from the get-go. And, Lisa and I both said, no, we got to do this. This is important for us. We need
Yeah.
to either sacrifice a bit here. She said she'd take on more tutoring and, spares supply teaching,
Right.
and, trying to make it happen because it was that important to us to do something for our marriage. Again, like we said before, we weren't in a horrible position. We just
we wanted to be better.
We wanted to be better.
Yeah.
And
of course.
I had, I think Lisa thought I would. She was the one who initially did most of the research, and she'd been following Gothman Institute for quite a while. For years, you've been printing things and giving me stuff. And as soon as you gave this to me and we saw your masterclass, it was a no-brainer. Except for that was the only thing that was.
And I'm so glad you say that because it's really important. I keep the program at a pretty reasonable fee compared to any other programs like that. And I haven't increased it in 3.5 years, despite all of my business mentors saying it should be 3 times more. And that's just straightforwardly what they tell me. But what I say is this, I'd rather teach more couples and keep the price point where it is than increase it and make a bunch more money teaching fewer couples, because then I'm helping fewer couples. And to put it into context, one of the most beautiful bits of feedback I get over and over again is people who say, I spent $5,000 on couples therapy, 3 different couples therapists. I spent 25% as much on your program, and it was actually more effective to us. And let me contextualize that. I love the field of couples therapy and sex therapy, but in Canada and the US, you could get maybe 4 hours with a good couples and sexual therapist, 4 sessions, because they're usually 90 minutes or 2 hours, for the price of the Become Passion program, which is 10 hours of curriculum, 15 hours or more with me, follow-up, guest expert classes, etc. So absolutely, it should be a consideration unless one's got a lot of extra cash around. Great. And another thing I loved, like, kudos, Lisa, for saying, I might do a little extra, tutoring, make some extra dollars to help have this be more financially comfortable for us. I had a woman who wrote me and said, it's a bit of a stretch for us, but we were looking at buying a new couch. It's a lot less than a new couch. We can sit on the old couch and be happy, or get a new couch and sit on the opposite ends, being angry, disconnected, and unhappy. And I thought, yeah, you're my kind of people. So thank you for that. Now, people listening, given that it's October, and I'm kicking off the program on November 3rd. These are the few weeks where people can come to that free masterclass you're at. Starting on October 24th, there'll be a few of them offered. You can get on the wait list below where you're listening to this podcast, or go to my website, drcherylfraser.com, and sign up for the waitlist. That does not mean you're going to do the program. The waitlist is a no obligation waitlist, but on that page, you can watch a little video where I talk a little bit about the program, and you can watch some testimonials and videos of couples who took the program 2 years ago and what they thought. But more importantly, if you're on the waitlist, you're going to be invited to that free masterclass and some other free Zoom workshops I'll be doing in the next few weeks. So if that's of interest to you to just learn more and work with me for free on the free offerings all month, you want to get onto that. But what would you say to people that are curious and thinking about doing the program and maybe have some very intelligent human trepidation? What would you say? What advice would you give?
Do it. Just do it. Honestly, if you think that you might benefit something from this, you will. Like, if you approach it with an open heart and an open mind, there's so much to learn, but it's easy stuff once you understand how to do it. And I think it's really important. Like, I wish I could get, friends whose marriages are not in great shape to recognize how important it is. Or, like, every time Cam and I have talked about, we'll be talking about a different couple and we're like, yeah, I think they should do that, right? Like, there's things that we think that anybody could benefit from, and
I also think that it doesn't just benefit your relationship with your partner. It benefits, like, I've used some of these tools with my brother and my mom,
right?
Speaking with them. And, I don't know how many times I've explained to people the clock thing, because I'm like, it's just so important. And we tend to use it now, a lot of the tools in our other relationships. So it doesn't just benefit us. I will say, if anybody who might be struggling a bit, and at any part of your relationship, because honestly, it's not just, Lisa and I really came into this with, we weren't having a sensual or sexual relationship, but we were struggling in the parts before and may not have realized that that foundation needs to be there to get
Right.
the triangle.
Yeah.
And it really helped, like I said, not just the end goal, but it helped the parts that I knew I was having difficulty with, or I was having difficulty with Lisa, being just the communication styles and stuff. We
Sure.
really had a hard time. So to me, it really helps at all levels of your relationship. And
Well, and other relationships. I thank you so much for saying that. One of my favorite bits of feedback was last year I offered the program to a closed group of 100 police officers and their spouses, all sorts of extra stressors on those families. And one of the officers, this was a male officer, I think, wrote me and gave me feedback. And he said, this has been unbelievably helpful for my relationship with my partner, but I'm also using these communication skills at work. I'm using them with my team, and I'm using them with my teenagers. So then I went, yes, because being respectful, learning how to understand each other, learning how to catch yourself when you're full of BS and own it and say, I'm sorry, that wasn't okay. And so much more, being more kind and excited about people and edifying their strengths instead of always pointing out what they do wrong. These are very important skills overall. Well, thank you for that. So there's a couple fun questions I'd like to ask you to just kind of bring this beautiful interview to a close. I'm just so grateful to have the two of you here, and thank you for sharing some of your story with other couples listening. And I hope it reassures and inspires them to say, even if we're not in terrible shape. I mean, I get folks in this program that are recovering from a catastrophic affair that has really rocked their world. They have so much wounds, and about 15% every year are post-affair recovery. About 10% of the couples every year are, one of them wants a divorce, and this is the last ditch effort to see whether they can find their way to some sort of future. Then there's a good chunk in the middle that are a bit more like the two of you, where it's not horrible, but it's not nearly as happy or frankly as fun or as connected as we'd like to be. And then there's some that are, we're actually pretty good, but we know relationships change and we want skills and tools and kind of the pink flags of what can happen in the future and how to prevent it and how to be wiser. So I love working with couples of all ilks, all genders, all whoever you love, however you love, and ages. I think the youngest I've had was probably late 20s. Most in their 30s, 40s, big cohort in 50s and 60s as well. It's just fantastic because it's long-term love. So in a moment, I'm going to give this episode's love bite. But first, tell us about your first date. How did it all begin?
Okay, so Cam and I met online.
Excellent. Me and my guy too.
So we decided to meet to play pool as our first date. So there was a pool hall in the town where we were living. So we met up there, played a couple of games of pool. She kicked my ass every game. But it was good. Conversations went well. Everything seemed really good. Evening ended on a positive note. It was all good.
We agreed to be in touch, and and then we both left, and I got in my vehicle and I pulled out of the lane or the parking, and she followed me and turned the same way I did, and I thought, okay, well, and then because at this point we didn't tell each other where we lived or anything. You never know, stalkers.
Yeah, smart dating rules. I agree. Yeah.
So then again, I did another turn. She turned. I did another turn. She turned. And
at this point, I'm getting freaked out.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, is this
I'm going home
kid
to my own house by myself? And I'm like, And I turned, and then I'm about to turn into my driveway. And I don't want to put my signal on because I don't want her to know I'm turning into my driveway.
We're having a fatal attraction situation.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, this is kind of weird. So I swoop in, but right as I was swooping in, she turned in the street right before my house. It was about 3 or 4 houses. I was 3 or 4 houses in, and she turned.
Yeah. And at this point, I'm like, oh, all the better to surveil me from.
right? I'm like, okay, I think she knows where I live now. So, all right, fine. Go in the garage, hide my vehicle. And then, was it the next
the next
day?
day.
We talked, and I was like, so, like, do you live close to me? I kind of felt weird that you were following.
Yeah, and it turns out that our backyards overlook each other, and we
So thankfully you weren't a crazy stalker fatal attraction person.
no fatal attraction stalker. No.
So yeah, it was. We
There you
both
go.
had the same exact townhouse, and
Yeah.
both of us bought our first homes, and these were our first homes. It was just,
There you go.
we had a lot in common at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So one of these days, I want you to go out and shoot pool at the same pool hall if it still exists, and recreate your first date. And maybe Lisa, you could go get like whatever they're called, a hustler, to like teach you how to be really, really good. Oh, don't listen, Cam. And then maybe you could turn the tables a little bit.
Yeah. I think
All
I've
right.
beaten her once or twice in the 12 years that we've been together, but yeah, only once or twice maybe.
There you go. She's a shark. Well, thank you so much for being here. And of course, this brings us to this episode's love bite, which is mediocre is mediocre. Don't settle for average. Don't settle for mundane. Choose to take the steps, whether it's with me in this program or in any other way that fulfills you, to invest time and energy and love to creating love that lasts a lifetime. Thank you so much for being here. And I so much look forward to continuing to work together.